So in the 90s, there was this little ska punk band that was blowing up out of the California ska punk scene, and that band was known as Sublime. And Sublime would go on to have one of the most tragic stories in all of rock and roll, and would only get more and more tragic as the years passed. And today, I'm going to explain how Sublime, in the form that they are now, known as Sublime with Rome, is one of the grossest and most wrong things to happen in the world. It might be so gross and wrong that they're making an enemy out of me. Hey ladies, how's it going? Dan Frampton here. How's about you like and subscribe before we continue? And what we're going to do today is talk about the Sublime story. We're going to go through this album by album, era by era, and we're going to determine when the most tragic thing happened and if it could have been prevented. And not only all that, we are going to discover the exact reason why Sublime with Rome is gross and wrong. This one's a little messy, this one's a little toxic, so I hope you got your hazmat suit as we go down this rock and roll rabbit hole. It's gonna start in 1988 when we get Eric, Bud, and our guy, Bradley Nowell, coming together to form the band Sublime. Now they wouldn't blow up right away, of course not, but in 1990, it is said that Bradley Nowell bought this dog here, this little puppy, and he named him Lou Dog after his grandfather, and Lou Dog the Dalmatian would go on to become the mascot for the band Sublime. And Bradley was such a dog person, you know, this dog would just run around freely on stage, and Bradley would invite other pet owners and other dogs to do the same thing. What a guy. In 1992, they released a full-length record called 40 Ounces to Freedom, and they started selling it at shows. You know, it wasn't really a big thing at first. But then the radio got a hold of this song called Date R Word, except for the R word is actually said, okay, but I'm not gonna say it here on this channel. It's a form of SA, another word I'm not gonna say. Anyway, they played this song, and this song started to catch fire, and now they're starting to blow up. And right when they're blowing up, they're like, let's throw a bunch of curveballs. Let's do the most experimental thing possible. Let's do some hip hop. Let's do some acoustic numbers. Let's throw it all together on this record, Robbin the Hood, in 1994. Now, in my opinion, this thing is creatively exhilarating, but it was a commercial flop. Like, nobody bought this thing, and nobody really thought that it was super cool. And most people today forget about this record, but the real Sublime fans, if there are real Sublime fans, really love this record. This record really holds a special place in the heart of real Sublime fans because there are certain cuts on this thing that are absolute classics. Are they the most well-known songs? No. Are they the most sing-alongable songs? Absolutely not. But the Sublime hipsters out there really cherish this record. Now, we're gonna move on to the year it all goes down. We're going to 1996, and we're gonna go month by month, okay? In February, they start recording their major label debut, their self-titled record. And recording's going great, you know? They're creatively on fire. They're writing some of the best rock and roll that can possibly exist at the time. They must have been so stoked in that studio, knowing that this shit was gonna catch fire. This would have been such a fun time to be around. But in May, Bradley dies, okay, in a hotel room of a heroin overdose. And that's tragic, okay? That's tragic enough. But then this record would come out in July and become a massive success. Everybody knows the songs on this record. This thing has bop after bop, hit after hit. What I Got would be one of the most played songs on the radio, one of the most played songs on MTV. This thing is iconic. This is up there with Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, right there in that top rock and roll echelon, okay? This thing is really catching fire, and Bradley's not even here to see it, okay? That is incredibly tragic. This thing that he conceived, this thing that is basically his baby, okay? He's unleashing it onto the world. My creative endeavors are just here. They started so humbly. I got this dog. We played shows. We brought in other dogs. It was so DIY. We were just like out on the beach getting high or whatever. And now we're going to be global superstars. And he's not even around to fucking witness it. And it actually happens. That actually comes to fruition. And I'm not here to speculate what would have happened if the guy didn't tragically pass. But Courtney Love, of all people, set up this like drug rehabilitation thing in his name. And I think that is sweetheart behavior. behavior. So a year after the album cycle, you know, the band is gonna have to break up. What else are they gonna do, right? So yeah, they break up. 12 years later, for some reason, they start playing again with this Rome guy. And they're not Sublime with Rome yet. No, they're just going out there calling themselves Sublime with a guy that sounds like Brad on the old vocals, okay? And right away, that is so weird. You're trying to channel your fucking dead friend to revive this band that like reeks of like unresolved issues from that. You know, you should have gotten over it and done other things. But 12 years later, you're like, oh my God, we could have been so successful. How about we find like the essence of Bradley in some other singer and just go out and be Sublime again? But the family, the estate of Bradley were like, hey, that's actually not so chill. And Bradley actually, you know, he trademarked Sublime under his name. And he said, if anything's going to be Sublime, it's going to be Brad. And they were like, okay, bet. That's cool. Yeah, bet. How about we just go by Sublime with Rome now? And that is such a cringy band name. What is Sublime with Rome? And then I'm like, okay, you guys do your thing. You guys are great musicians. You guys are legends. Just go do the Sublime with Rome thing, I guess, even though it feels like daggers to the stomach. But then you listen to this record and it is daggers to the stomach. You're like, no, okay, yeah, you got Bud and Eric doing Sublime stuff, sounding like Sublime, and then Bradley Nowell sounds like he's there. And I don't know, man. I think that is just absolutely so weird. Imagine fucking Dave Grohl and Chris, or whatever his name was, the bass player from Nirvana, kept going after Kurt died. They were just like, okay, we gotta get a guy that kind of sounds like Kurt. Maybe he might be able to kind of write like Kurt. And it's so fucking strange because this is not Sublime. This record is the farthest thing from Sublime. This isn't like a weird autopsy turned into an exorcism or whatever. I do not enjoy listening to this record. And to be honest, I didn't really get too far into this record because it's so fucking hard to listen to. And they just keep going. Look at this hideous album cover. And it just is now starting to sound like generic reggae rock because Bud, the drummer, leaves the band because he's like, in retrospect, that's actually kind of fucked up. I don't know why we did what we did, but we did. But then Bud couldn't live with himself, so he left. So now we got other drummers on here. So now this is like only 1/3 of the original Sublime, now going by Sublime with Rome. What the fuck, guys? You guys are a completely different band, just some radio reggae bullshit, the most generic shit in the world. And the most tragic thing about it is you just kept going, because this record here, what was it called? I don't even fucking know. Who cares? Blessings came out in 2019. That is too recent for a Sublime record. And look, you guys are like, it's not just Sublime with Rome and all the same sized writing. You're really trying to get away with being called Sublime. It's awful, even though you know Bradley is like, I'm the one that's Sublime, and now I'm up in heaven looking down, going, what the frick's going on with you fricks? So all that being said brings us to the real reason this is so fucked up, okay? And the real reason why it's so fucked up is Brad didn't even get to experience the success of his writing and his sound. Instead, 12 years later, they just tried to push all that success and all that spotlight onto this Rome fella. Who the hell's Rome? He's a nobody. He might kind of sound like Brad, but why are you giving him Brad spotlight, okay? That makes it so wrong, that makes it so gross, and that makes it the drama of a lifetime and supreme enemy out of me. And the guy that replaced Bud even left, and now they're playing with another guy. This is total horseshit and it's gotta be cut off at the legs, okay? Get rid of this thing. Rome, you gotta be joking me. But with all that being said, do you like Sublime with Rome? What do you think of the original Sublime run? Should that legend have been tampered with? Let me know down there in the comments. Like and subscribe, and until my next upload, watch another upload.